Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bill Burr and Bert Kreischer. Is that how we do it? It's time for another wonderful episode of the Bill
Bert
Podcast. All right, what's going on, Bert? Great to see you.
I just had a bowl of cereal at night. Is there anything better? And Isla said, I'm going to talk about this on the podcast. And Isla goes, Dad, Bill's an egg sandwich kind of guy. He's not a bowl of cereal kind of guy.
I'll tell you this, dude. I'm trying to think of anything that I don't like for breakfast. I love breakfast. I go everything from a healthy smoothie with the powdered protein all the way to I'll just eat salmon cold from last night's dinner out of the fridge in a cold tortilla. I don't give a shit. Oh. I got up. I haven't eaten in 8 hours. Everything looks good to me. I don't have that morning thing of like, oh God, I can't eat that in the morning. I could sit down and eat like, I don't know, if you pick something, I could eat it. I could eat a goulash for breakfast, cold.
I remember the first time I had a breakfast burrito, and I was like, shut the fuck up. I was like, they do this for breakfast too? Oh my God. Dog.
Breakfast burrito. Yeah, that thing puts you on the mat though. That's the only thing I don't like. I don't like shit that's going to take me down. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, now my day's fucked. So I try to stay away from waffles, French toasts, and pancakes because that thing's taking you down to the mat. You know, that's like you're just choking yourself out. You're just taking yourself down.
We went to breakfast. Me, you, and Al went to breakfast one time at a place called 4 and 20. It's right. It's closed now. COVID got it. But one of my favorite things was their pancakes, to get their pancakes. And then I do pancakes very specifically. I butter the pancakes first. I never just get pancakes. I'm not that kind of guy. I never
thought you were. I would never say that about you.
Eggs over easy. I usually add eggs. 3 eggs over easy. Bacon, hash browns. Murder that. And then what I do is before I start murdering, I butter the pancakes. Then I cut a pie sliver out of the pancake, right? And I pour syrup into the center of that pie sliver and let it load up in that one little sliver so that it's almost candied bread. And I'm getting hungry again, and I just had a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, no, there's a whole art to putting syrup on pancakes because if you don't know how to do it, you'll go through a whole bottle and you still won't even taste it.
Yeah, right?
Pancakes are like a gold-digging whore. They're just absorbing all the assets here. So what you got to do is you got to put the syrup to the side. You bring the pancake into the syrup. You don't put the syrup into the pancakes; it'll disappear.
It just goes and do you know this? This is one of those things that you see for the first time, and then you can't unsee in a weird way. Is syrup's more expensive than gasoline?
Oh yeah, I heard that. And they also they monitor how much they put out. It's a whole scam. Diamonds, syrup, oil, the whole thing. Those Beanie Babies back in the day. Yeah. All of that shit. Football cards, the whole thing is...
You know, they did that with free agency in Major League Baseball.
What's that?
So I'm on like a huge history kick right now. And so I watched Ken Burns' baseball on my treadmill. And they said when free agency started off, by the way, I'm certain there's someone that's really into baseball that's going to go, that's not at all what happened. But
okay.
When free agency kicked off, they were like, well, we can't just make everyone free agents or it'll be a free-for-all. We've got to space it out so it's a trickle effect. So you just release a few free agents at a time so then there's money there to be spent because it was just everywhere. But then all the owners colluded and said, don't pay them. No one pick up a free agent. Because before free agency, it was just like slave days. Like you get hired
studio system.
Yeah, you were on a team, and then they could keep you forever. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, like if you were in the system, like they were saying, like if you were a great center field prospect during, Joe D into Mickey Mantle, you actually could have made the pros if you just asked for a trade or got out of that system, but you never got brought up.
Yeah. There was really fascinating how, like I was watching this thing about Ty Cobb, and it's amazing that they, you know, with what cancel culture is, that they allow a guy like that to remain in the Hall of Fame, but they cancel, you know, like Andrew Jackson or whatever. Like they're canceling old presidents. But when you look at Ty Cobb, outright racist, like outright bigot, who walked around with a Luger in his pocket everywhere and $1 million worth of bonds, and just got drunk every fucking day, whiskey and milk, I think he had. And
well, he might have an out then, because that was the out that a lot of modern day racists were using, where they were like, well, I was drunk, I need to go to rehab. He was a victim. There was no rehab. If he went to rehab, he could have got sober and he wouldn't have been racist anymore. He could have gone that route. I am it's so ridiculous to go back in time and try to compare now to then. And then of course you're living now. Like, you don't think somebody in 100 years can look back at 2020 and some of the shit that we're doing and saying, and you're going to be in the fucking wrong. Dude, just look at 10 years ago, the shit that you could say versus now. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're going to go back 100 years. Yeah. And then you're going to look at this guy and act like everybody else around him was woke.
Right.
They
look
weren't.
at everyone.
They just didn't hit 4,000 baseballs, so you don't know who they are.
Well, Ty Cobb was very progressive with transgendered rights, oddly enough.
I heard about that.
He was using proper pronouns so much quicker than anyone else.
Dude, there was so much, it's like, you can't, it's like comparing eras.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, tonight I was watching, you know, the pregame for the Patriots Rams, right?
Yeah.
And I was sitting there with my mother-in-law, and she saw Tony Gonzalez, and she goes, was he a football player? He looks really big. He doesn't look like a broadcast. Yeah, I said, yeah, he's arguably, statistically, the greatest tight end of all time. And I'm thinking in my head, was he came around during the right time where it was such an offensively minded, I'm not taking away from the guy, but like, it was just like, for the longest time, the tight end was a glorified offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a blocking end, essentially. And then that position evolved through, you know, the Raymond Berries, the Dave Caspers, all of those guys on the way up to open the door, you know, and then they figured out that offense sells the game, catches the casual fan. So like the statistics, if you know what's crazy, to look up the all-time passing leaders in football right now, if you look at the top 20, like it's like 17, 18 are still playing right now. Something crazy like that. Or yeah. I'm sorry, all played within like the last like 20 years, since like 1990, 30 years, I should say. Like all of a sudden, all of these guys got like just blown by. Like when I was a kid, it was Fran Tarkington had the most yards all time, and he had like 47,000 yards or 48,000 yards. And there's like guys who are considered mediocre. He had a decent career. He wasn't like, he wasn't one of the greats. He's not making the Hall of Fame. And they'll throw 45,000 yards.
Yeah.
And then if you look the other way, the running stuff, the all-time rushers and all of that stuff, they just run way less. So, I mean, to try to get like 10,000 yards has become a really difficult thing. Certainly for the average back.
I look at that. I'm writing down ideas. I look at that in comedy too. You look at, I think you said this actually, you go back 20 years ago, the amount of guys playing theaters was like 20, maybe 10.
I can't even, Carlin, Cosby, like legends.
Yeah, legends were playing theaters.
Would play, but even then, a lot of the other bigger guys they'd sit in Vegas, do like corporate gigs and stuff like that. Like you had to be like really, really big. Dude, I remember like when Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher's first show was on the air in the late, was it early 90s, mid 90s when that show first came on? It was a big deal that he came to the Comedy Connection in Boston and went clean for the weekend, sold out 6 shows.
Yeah.
But, you know, if now he's doing real time, he's a theater act. But I don't know what it was. I don't know what made that leap, because I don't think the comedy boom ever got bigger than the 80s until recently.
You think it was Netflix?
Oh, you know what it is? Yeah, it's Netflix, and it's you also can do this shit. Can you imagine if back in the day you could have just watched Carlin and Pryor shooting the shit on a podcast? Like, how big would they have been?
Oh my God, how great! I mean, it sucks that I know it's just me and you. How great would it have been to listen to Pryor and Carlin on a podcast?
Lot better than this.
A lot. So, but if they had to do it every week, I bet there would be some weeks it would fall off.
Yeah, it would be. Somebody would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but that's why I'm not a big like as far as like the little history of football that I know, you know, it's Paul Brown and Otto Graham and Lou Groza was what brought the NFL into sort of the pre-modern era where, I mean, if you read up on those guys like that's who Bill Belichick is. Bill Belichick is the next Paul Brown. I feel like he changed it the way Paul Brown did. And, I mean, up until then, they didn't even know that, like, kicking, like your kicker was an offensive lineman, which is what they had. Lou the Toe Groza, and they didn't take it seriously, and Lou took it seriously, and Paul Brown took it seriously. And then all of a sudden, they just started winning all these games. And they came in from that other league, and they thought it was inferior, and they were winning all these games. And so they finally broke it down on a piece on paper, like, what are these guys doing? And it was like they were kicking field goals. And he was accurate, like from 45 yards out, straight on kicker, offensive lineman. So they were just getting 3 here and 3 there. And these other guys were just either punting the ball away or going for it, which, by the way, dude, the fucking analytics people, what they've done to football. I watched a game the other day. It's 0-0 in the first quarter, or maybe the beginning of the second quarter. And they go for it on 4th and goal. That game against the Bills. And they don't get it. It's just like, what the fuck are you kick a field goal? I don't understand. Like they play the whole game like it's the end of the game. And it's just, I guess, this analytic where you go for the most points. It's almost like what happened in the NBA with like the 3-pointer. And I think it's like, does it work or does it work because everybody else is doing it?